thing. Humpty Dumpty appears in Alice in Wonderland. You know, Humpty Dumpty, his first appearance actually, he's not a Lewis Carroll character, first appeared in 1797. Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall, Humpty Dumpty had a great fall, 80 men and 80 more could not make Humpty Dumpty where he was before. That's not really very good, is it? No, it evolved, it got better. Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall, Humpty Dumpty had a great fall, all the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't put Humpty together again. He's usually represented as an egg. Right? So, in Alice in Wonderland, Alice comes across Humpty sitting on a wall in the middle of the village and says, Humpty then appears and says, I don't know, he says something to her, black glory. Alice says to Humpty, I don't know what you mean by glory. Humpty Dumpty smiled contemptuously. Of course you don't, till I tell you. I meant there's a nice knockdown argument for you. But glory doesn't mean a nice knockdown argument, Alice objected. When I use the word, Humpty Dumpty said, in rather a scornful tone, it means just what I choose it to mean, neither more nor less. The question is, said Alice, whether you can make words mean so many different things. The question is, said Humpty Dumpty, who is to be master? That is all. Yeah. Chris Hayes, on his show, his NBC show, on the 28th of May, last year, American Memorial Day, was having a discussion about Memorial Day on the show, and he said this.
I think it's interesting because it is, I think, very difficult to talk about the war dead and the fallen without invoking valor, without invoking the words heroes. Why do I feel so comfortable about the word hero? I feel uncomfortable about the word hero because it seems to me that it is so rhetorically proximate to justifications for more war. And I don't want to obviously desecrate or disrespect the memory of anyone that's fallen, and obviously there are individual circumstances in which there is genuine and tremendous heroism of, you know, hail of gunfire and rescuing fellow soldiers and things like that. But it seems to me that we marshal this word in a way that is problematic, but maybe I'm wrong about that.
No. I like that maybe I'm wrong about that. So what he's basically proposing is if we find ourselves referring to all troops as heroes, then troops by definition will only ever fight just war. They won't be soldiers, they'll be heroes. So they'll be like Superman, they'll be going off to do good stuff. So he's a bit uncomfortable using the word heroes to describe soldiers because he sees things sliding in that direction. The next day, he wasn't on the show, I think, for 10 days or something. So the apology was basically just read out. So Humpty Dumpty said, the question is, who is to be master of the meaning of words? I think there's a biting irony there that within Alice in Wonderland as a text itself, it's written by someone who has a colleague who has a particular view in relation to English colonialism. And this is expressed in the way Alice should react to the history of Oliver Cromwell, who is a figurehead of that type of English exploitation. Right? So in other words, there's an ideologically loaded environment taking place within the text. But at the same time, when he's just writing fantasy, Lewis Carroll produces as fantasy, without thinking it through, the deconstruction of his own position, the ability to look at language as something that is incredibly loaded. That to me is deeply ironic when the artist's intention deconstruct what it is they set out to do. That's the United Nations on the day that Colin Powell turned up to give his appreciations for invasion in Iraq. You may remember it. That's the corridor where the press conference was taking place directly after his presentation. You see all the flags there on the right-hand side with the blue canopy, yeah, which is just to the right of where the press conference was taking place. That blue canopy was erected that morning and the flags were placed in front of it to disguise that. A replica of Guernica by Pablo Picasso, which was hanging in the corridor of the UN. Somebody obviously decided it wouldn't really be a good look to have Colin Powell advocating invading Iraq in front of a painting of Guernica. But apparently Zizek says, no, we can't have irony. We need to leave that behind us. I think there's a much bigger problem in relation to irony. It's not necessarily what you laugh at. It's the fact that we would lose the history. The intertextual history is more important than the ironic references. Because in order to understand why that's funny, you need to know what Guernica is, who Picasso is, and why he painted it. In order to know what's going on in Alice in Wonderland, you need to have an understanding of Irish history in relation to the illustrator who illustrated the magazine. In order to understand the George Orwell image of his house with the surveillance camera, you need to have read 1984. So it's not just that the irony is something we need to sacrifice. In sacrificing the irony and sacrificing notions of the human, then we could be sacrificing that historical knowledge, and that seems to me to be absolutely key.